The secret to beat Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. Today, we're going to take a look at how you can unlock the door against one of the best teams we've ever seen in European football. Not quite as good as Manchester United's team in 1999. But it's not bad, it's not bad. We're going to go through some tactics, some analysis, and we're going to dive into the big question, the secrets in beating Pep Guardiola. First up, in terms of formations, Manchester City started the campaign playing a wide 4-1-4-1. Since then, they've moved across to having John Stones either playing as an auxiliary right-back and moving inside, or operating as a bit of a libero moving into midfield, giving City a build-up that represents a basic 3-2-5 structure with 2 3/8s. This is a different proposition to what Manchester United dealt with at Old Trafford in the 2-1 win. So looking at the setups that Manchester United and Manchester City used in that game, City used a flat back four, 1 defensive midfielder, 2 central midfielders, wingers holding the width and Haaland through the middle. Manchester United went man for man in that central zone. Casemiro picked up Bernardo Silva, Eriksen was on Rodri, and Fred picked up Kevin De Bruyne. United defending narrow in a mid-block, allowing City the ball in certain areas and then looking to press. This worked really well in the opening 20 minutes of the game, and it's something United need to do. It stops City out of the back in the opening part of the game, because that's when you can catch them out. You can break their rhythm, you can break their fluidity, and the dominance starts to drop off when you really press them and squeeze them in the right areas. So Manchester United looked to force them to play out of the back. They also dealt with Haaland in a bit of a man-to-man way, with one of the centre-backs stepping into midfield and marking Haaland as he dropped off. There were many times in the game where City could have gone direct into Haaland and he would have been clean through, or into his feet and he could have turned and played through. But at this part of the season, it didn't look like City were comfortable at playing those passes. So Manchester United, in terms of how they squeezed City in this opening game, they had one player that oscillate and pick up the defensive midfielder. Of course, Eriksen was first, and now picking up by Anthony Martial because the ball's on the right-hand side of the pitch. Eriksen would provide pressure, and we can see the man-to-man scheme with Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. Manchester United's man-to-man setup on Haaland didn't feature in the opponent's half, so if Haaland dropped into these positions, they allowed him to take up those zones and dropped off. But I think one of the big things that Manchester United were doing is they were dictating where City were playing. They were forcing them into areas where Man United could win the ball back. As we can see now, the ball's played from Ake into the feet of Bernardo Silva with Casemiro on his back. That's not a comfortable place to play. Of course, Bernardo Silva rushes his pass. Marcus Rashford steps in, plays through Christian Eriksen, a brilliant turn by the Danish midfielder, and then he feeds Bruno Fernandes, who just shoots wide. But that ability to dictate what City are doing is going to be crucial in this game in the FA Cup. But United will have to tweak their setup and system. So in terms of the tweak in setup and system, Manchester United need to basically play both of their 2 forwards off in defensive positions, sitting goal side of John Stones and Rodri, allowing Manchester City to cycle the ball through their back 3. If their back 3 do, move up and carry through, then be engaged by the 2 wide players of Manchester United. But very much sitting in a bit of a 4-4-2-0 structure and allowing the wide players to provide that bit of pressure on the outside. And again, if Diaz carries out through the middle, then applying pressure on the football by one of the nominal strikers, but make sure you're blocking the passes into Rodri and John Stones. This will allow Manchester United to deal with Kevin De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan, 2 massive threats in possession, as well as having men that can deal with Jack Grealish and, of course, Bernardo Silva. One of the defensive things that I've been thinking about is potentially, playing a Diogo Dalot at left back and moving Shaw to centre half. I thought it was absolutely fantastic on Haaland in the 2-1 derby win, and that could be something we see from Manchester United, but slightly unlikely given in recent weeks it's kind of been a settled back 4 with Erik Ten Hag playing Victor Lindelof, Rafael Varane, Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. I think the issue with Victor Lindelof is he can play brilliant for 85 minutes, but then someone will slip in behind him. We saw that, at the recent game against Bournemouth with Kiefer Moore getting in behind him. We saw it with Havertz as well with the game against Chelsea that, Victor Lindelof can have a fantastic performance, but there is moments where, opposition can get in behind him in the channel, and that is why I would go with Luke Shaw centre-back over Lindelof, but it's more than likely that it will be Victor Lindelof given the recent team setup. So in terms of Manchester United, it is waiting for that right moment. It is limiting the space on the pitch. It's defending in a very, narrow and compact manner, forcing City to play those passes into the feet of Gundogan or Kevin De Bruyne with a man in behind them, or even into Haaland with one of the centre-backs being touch tight, and then the counter-attack comes. Then the big thing with City's build-up in the 4-1-4-1 or in this alternate 3-5-2 structure, the space, of course, is out wide. We saw Marcus Rashford take great use of that space in that game, but also in terms of the other thing that you're thinking about here with the tactical setup, if United can win the ball back, it's having that right midfielder, which I hope will be Bruno Fernandes, in a slightly narrower position, basically creating a situation where you've got a 3v2 in this central area of the pitch, allowing that pass to be played in behind for the other winger, be it Jadon Sancho, or alternatively, what I'd quite like to see maybe from the start to really unsettle Manchester City is playing Wout Weghorst as a striker. Weghorst hasn't, been lethal in front of goal by any means, yet to score a Premier League goal. He's not going to score a Premier League goal at Manchester United. But what he'll do exceedingly well is put pressure on the football, is squeeze, is work hard, is understand the pressing schemes, that if at moments that he wants to jump off the two defensive midfielders, that he presses in the correct moment, covering that pass in, allowing Manchester United to be defensively solid. I'm honestly quite want to see Weghorst from the start, just because of that work rate. Yes, he's not going to score goals, but that's going to be down to Marcus Rashford being the goal scorer, especially in that first half. I think going forward in terms of what Manchester United need to look at next is from a counter-attacking position if they can win the ball back in the mid part of the pitch. So looking at 33 minutes in the recent Manchester derby at Old Trafford, we can highlight that big space United need to counter through with a narrow positioning of the right midfielder. Hopefully Bruno Fernandes. So you can see here City are a little bit disorganised. Manchester United upset the rhythm in the game at Old Trafford, and City's organisation was very, very poor. But still, I think this moment can open up if, Casemiro can win the ball at defensive midfield as he's done all season, with only Paulinho and Tyler Adams winning more tackles per game than Casemiro in the Premier League. Having him win the ball back in those areas and then feeding Bruno Fernandes is going to be vitally important, because City will have this same problem. Even if, they've got their centre-back tucked in, they're still playing with a back three. There is still this space out wide. Of course, in this moment, City's right fullback is far too high up the pitch. But City will build the back three. They'll have more of a direct option to compete with Marcus Rashford, but I still think that space in behind is there. We saw Bruno lift the ball over the top, Rashford round Ederson in that moment, which I think was a critical part of United's game plan at Old Trafford, which will be a critical part of the game plan at Wembley. And just in those situations, as we saw there, City throwing bodies forward, Casemiro or Fred making a big challenge in front of the back four. Again, the compact nature of City's shape. So we're just having a look at now what it could look at like in this game. For example, if City are in an offensive structure, the three at the back, the two defensive midfielders, and United are forcing maybe a pass into an Ilkay Gundogan, Casemiro reading, then feeding Bruno Fernandes, and that space is still there. Of course, if Kyle Walker, plays, there is a fair pace race there, but I do think Rashford running at Kyle Walker with his trickery and skills, there will be only one winner. So United sitting in that sort of deeper block in a 4-4-2-0 shape and then utilising the space in the flanks to break in behind. Of course, Manchester United will have phases of play when they'll have the football, and we all know that City are absolutely brilliant in their defensive structure. They drop into very much a 4-4-2 shape, and they will press you in a pass lane orientated manner. The big thing that Manchester United need to do in these moments, of course, is be confident but look to play those passes into the feet and then the layoffs. Like any team, City are vulnerable to playing those passes into the feet, then laying off and having the midfielder carry forward and play through. That's something that United did really well in that Premier League game, and it's something that we'll take a look at now. So here we have an example of Manchester United playing through that Manchester City press. As we mentioned, the direct passes into the feet of the forwards, be it the left winger, right winger, or the two central attackers. Manchester United playing that first pass forward and then looking for the layoff is how you can get at Manchester City. In this instance, we've got Malacia playing into the feet of Marcus Rashford and then dropping it off to Fred. From that position, Fred rolling inside. What we see with City is they're very aggressive in terms of squeezing one part of the pitch. We can see they commit bodies, but what that means is space opens up. If you do commit them over, we can see Rodri being committed, the fullback being committed on Marcus Rashford as well, and there being a clean pass for Christian Eriksen, and then the pace of Rashford to run in behind is absolutely absolutely vitally important in the game to create it. So just going through that, the up, back, through method, then utilising the attacking midfielder with pacing behind the defence, you can get at Manchester City, independent of if they're playing a back four in possession or a back three in possession. And the final secret to beating Manchester City is bringing pace off the bench and having pace through the middle. Manchester United need to utilise their bench, and that's why I want Weghorst to start. Weghorst can use energy for around 60 minutes, then Rashford can go through the middle and Garnacho on that left-hand side. One of the big things that, in terms of Manchester City, when they're pressing, when they're attacking, when they're in that big, attacking structure, is they do have a lot of bodies up the pitch, which naturally leads to counter-attacking situations if you can win the ball back. And I think, again, utilising direct passes into the feet of Marcus Rashford, allowing him to lay the ball off and then playing through and then utilising the pace of Garnacho in behind is vitally important in terms of breaking City down. Having pace late on in games really catches Guardiola out, and United did it in the 2-1 win, and they need to do it again at Wembley to beat City and stop them winning the treble. So let's take a look at Marcus Rashford's winner in that recent derby. The ball has gone into his feet. As you can see, Manchester United have committed bodies to win that second ball. Fred is very active, and Garnacho's going to stretch the opposition with a bit of pace. Fred wins the ball, which creates a bad situation for City, where they can be bypassed with a little bit of football. Fred fires it into the feet of Bruno Fernandes. You can already see the space that Alejandro Garnacho is in. Again, you've got to imagine another Manchester City defender here, because they've kind of changed their build-up. City have got Kyle Walker super high, Akanji's in a high position as well, so you expect another player to be dropped back, but playing direct and then having the pace in behind in wide areas, you're going to get at Manchester City. Bruno Fernandes carrying through them, playing a brilliant pass in behind the defence. Again, it'd still be a 3v3 situation. If City had one more defender, Akanji dropping into that sort of centre-back position, there is still a real good opportunity for Manchester United. Again, overloading the back stick, vitally important against City. Garnacho's first cross gets blocked, then he absolutely destroys Nathan Ake on the outside, low cross into the box, Rashford putting the ball in the back of that. But that ability to spring counter-attacks, pace in behind, late in games is vitally important in terms of beating Guardiola, and it's one of the secrets to success when facing the Spanish tactician. So the secrets of beating Pep Guardiola's Manchester City are: number one, sitting off in a 4-4-2-0 shape on their two defensive midfielders. The second thing is utilising counter-attacking opportunities, switching the ball from the right to the left wing. Number three is utilising possession in a sense of playing up, back, through attacking midfield, and then hitting that space again. And number four, you have got to utilise your bench. Alejandro Garnacho is a vital pace that needs to be brought on, allowing United to have pace in a central area, but also out wide. That will catch Pep Guardiola's side as they tire through the game. Direct pace on the flanks is a big key to success when facing Guardiola. But anyway, guys, what do you think? How would you beat Pep Guardiola's Manchester City? Get in the comments below, subscribe if you're new, and like the video, and we'll see you next time.